Welcome to another Dry Run podcast. And with me tonight is Onyx Rose, my co-host, and it's wonderful to have her here. And we're gonna have a
Thank you.
discussion. um, and we're gonna have a discussion with Kitty Martz. And Kitty Martz is the executive director of Voices and Problem Gambling Recovery here in Portland, which is a 503c charitable organization that addresses certain issues around gambling. And Kitty's going to talk to us about her experiences there and what that means and some issues on sort of the frontier of that environment. I do also want to say that of course not here is Autumn, at least not physically on the screen. Autumn is here in the live chat. Hello, and
Hey,
we'll be at the end of this episode. I'll talk about the situation that's going on in our shared life and Autumn and what's going on with her. So I appreciate that, and I certainly didn't want to interrupt this interview with Kitty because this is an important issue, and I'm really excited to get to talk to you about gambling and how it's affecting the communities here. So if you don't mind, Kitty, I want you to say hi to everybody, and I have a question for you.
Thanks, Samantha. So, hi.
Right.
I am glad to talk about anything gambling or otherwise. So, whatever where you want to take this, I'm here for it.
Okay, I appreciate that. That makes it very, very, open-ended. But
Mhm.
first of all, let's talk about what Voices of Problem Gambling Recovery is. What is it? What is the organization and what's its mission?
So we have an acronym of just VPGR is our uh, name of our agency. We're pretty small and we have a couple different missions that tie together. We advocate,
Mm-hmm.
educate, and we try to promote recovery from gambling harm. And that's both in Oregon and on a national level. So the way that's manifested is that we offer peer mentoring services
Okay.
to folks who have gambling harm and also their affected others, if that's their family members, their friends, their family of choice, and folks around them to help them get information because it's a pretty significant problem here in Oregon. I find a lot of meaning in doing activism work. We
Mm-hmm.
have a long legislative session coming up here, and that happens every 2 years, obviously, but is more of a chance to try to get some guardrails in place. So I can talk more about my love for Ralph Nader and things that are
You come
about
by it honestly,
consumer
is what you're saying.
protection.
You come by it honestly.
My special interest. So if that's writing letters to Congress members, if it's trying to help with public opinion, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing I've learned is there's a couple ways to affect change. And one is at a grassroots level to just get the public to understand what's happening and get behind it. And that's a tricky thing with gambling because
Yeah.
it's a little bit of sort of the one-off in the addiction field. And I know all of us here are pretty familiar with addiction, but gambling feels like it's lagging behind a little in terms of stigma and putting a ethical kind of label on it
Mm-hmm.
versus saying this is something that
Psychological.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, kind
Mm-hmm.
of blame the victim-y sort of thing.
Yep.
You can also play it out in the court of law where
Mm-hmm.
you're litigating. And that's what's going to happen with prediction markets, which is
Yeah.
what a lot of people are interested in these days, is we're going to not have a lot of guardrails and a lot of harm's going to happen. And then people are going to go, oh, harm happened. You should have protected the
Mm-hmm.
public.
Yeah,
And
it seems like
uh,
in these areas where there's advancements, maybe like in the initial stages of the internet, when it was being swamped with sort of different types of, whether it be porn or different areas that pushed the
mhm,
outer boundaries, that resulted in Silk Road, where you could, use Bitcoin to put a contract on someone before the law caught
mhm,
up, right? And this
mhm,
is going to
mhm.
happen possibly in the prediction markets or in the gambling area too, or it could. It just
Yeah.
gets beyond the law.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you about one that's going to be especially interesting to watch. Have kids that play, or maybe you do, I'm sorry, Roblox or
Hmm.
Minecraft or one of those build 'em games.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
Yeah.
are you familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my
Yes,
youngest played
definitely.
with them quite a bit. Yeah, with the
Yeah.
video games,
Nephews,
Roblox.
nieces.
Yeah.
And I mean, they read as more creative, and you're building something, and it's not quite as shoot 'em up and mindless as some of the video games.
Mhm.
So there's one out there
Right.
called Lion's Mane,
Mm.
and it it's a you get some rewards for having streaks of logging in every day and doing something to build up your Sin
Mhm.
City. It's building Sin City in Las Vegas with
Oh, okay.
your lion that's wearing kind of a shiny suit,
Uh,
and
yeah, I
just
mean, I can see
not
the attraction. I can see that.
not the kind of lion we'd want to hang around with, but
Right, right,
just put some thought into it. And so kids will, or people, not kids, will get
Mhm.
points for playing this, and they're
Yeah.
called truth
Right.
gems. And you can take these truth gems and go to an online currency that's crypto based,
Mhm.
called Crows, CROS,
Wow, okay.
and
Yeah.
then buy crows, which then can turn into whatever currency you're
Yeah.
interested in,
Yeah.
American dollars,
There
yen,
used to
whatever.
back in the early days of Bitcoin, there used to be ways that you could trade or cryptocurrencies that way when there weren't a lot of, coin exchanges available or currency exchanges
Yeah.
Right.
online. So you could transfer
Right.
them to game tokens and then, of course, have a way to transfer them out of those game tokens in a different currency. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with
Well,
that.
so
Yeah.
alongside that,
Hmm. Oop. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Are we lagging?
Uh-oh.
Is it me?
Kitty? No, no, no. I can't hear Kitty either. Oh,
Oh, there
we're
we go.
switching. We can't hear you, but
Headset?
mm,
did it die?
no
Oh, I heard
technical
something there.
difficulty.
There you go.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're back.
We can yeah.
Uh,
Mm,
Truth Social also will deliver these truth gems.
oh, okay. No, wait. We can hear you, but it's really, really soft, broken up. So you're not on the same mic.
It's quiet.
Yeah, there it is.
There we go.
Are you there?
Um, so so
Yeah.
the so I don't know if you remember, roundabout back in 2011,
Hmm.
there was there were these children that were found in warehouses in developing nations, and they were doing what was called gold farming,
Yeah.
where they would gather up some of the goods within the World of Warcraft game, and then they could sell those to more developed nations or people in them.
Mm.
And so it was really child trafficking, is what we were talking about. And this was
Right.
discovered, and we went, no, that's not good. Let's not have that happening. And
Hmm.
I imagine like some effort was made. I don't know all the details of what happened there. And so it begs the question, if we have these video games that are rewarding some kind of in-game currency, cryptocurrency, or just
Hmm.
outright currency when you get right down to it.
Right.
And then it's also kind of on a parallel path with political affiliation and posting, say, support of your candidate that's going to be active on that
Ooh.
platform. Like
Mm.
worlds collide there. Who's to say it wouldn't make sense, instead of having trafficked children in warehouses in developing nations? And I know this sounds like so far out there,
No,
but
no.
I am not
Kitty the
kidding y'all.
futurist. Yeah. Okay.
Well, so what do you think? What do you reckon is going to happen? Are we going to have warehouses of kids, or what would make more sense? Think AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's going to be bots that are going to be
Right.
able to play this game, and it's going to cause an asymmetry, even more so than there already is, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So
Mm.
it's
Right.
going to be interesting to follow a lot. We can circle back to prediction markets if you want, but there's definitely a strategic advantage of the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of that action, or at least that type of market.
Mhm.
But I mean, obviously, everyone's carrying around their cell phones now. I mean, and those can have access to not only casinos but to the prediction markets themselves. And I know that's one of the things that you advocate about here in Oregon. The not only the access to games in the restaurants and in the bars locally, but also with regard to what can be put on the phone.
Yeah, that accessibility on the phones
Hmm.
doesn't have much friction between us having feelings, thoughts,
Hmm.
wanting to just kind of escape from our situation that we're in, just
Yeah.
being
Mhm.
in these meat suits
Um,
and being able to find some relief right there in your pocket 24/7, no stop and end time, anything.
Yeah, and
can
so
I say
having
something
access
really quick?
to prediction markets or sports betting that easily, uh, it's conceivably can affect certain communities or even, I mean, I guess everyone can fall prey, or I want to say fall prey to addiction to gambling. But
Right.
certainly people also, I'm going to use it again, even anyway, fall prey to addiction to games on their phones, which
Mhm.
isn't necessarily gambling. It's just time consuming, Candy Crush, those things where you do kind of spend into the game and get a different type of reward.
I want to
Um,
speak on that if I can.
yeah.
If I can talk about that for a minute.
Hmm.
So I there's a game called Dice with Buddies, and
Hmm.
I've been playing it for years. And it's on my phone.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I would take like a weekend, and okay, I'm just gonna say this, but I would start taking Adderall, and I would start playing dice with buddies, and then I would start buying more dice to keep on playing, and then I would keep on buying the in-app purchases to keep
Hmm.
playing and
Yeah.
playing games, and I would end up for 2 days, playing and playing and playing,
Wow. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
spending and changing credit cards to get, more dice and more in-app purchases.
Hmm.
For a long time, I was doing that, and um, my partner finally was like, you need to stop,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I kind of reevaluated, and it took a minute to pull back.
Hmm.
But I don't do that anymore. I still do play dice with buddies, but I limit it to like 5 to 10 minutes a
Right.
day, and
Right.
that's
I mean,
yeah.
Pokemon can be that way too. I know someone who had a pretty significant, I'll say minor problem rather, with a Star Trek game that they got to the point where they were in a sort of a game clan or something and involved in a larger, broader universe and were spending and a lot of not only time but personal resources in playing that game, and having issues with it. And I remember being in an AA meeting and having everyone talk about being an alcoholic, and then a gentleman stand up and say, "Well, I don't have an addiction to alcohol. I have a problem with the game, but I can't find
Mhm.
a group to go to."
Mhm.
Um,
Mm, right.
and I don't know whether that would be an NA type situation or whatever it was, but it's certainly I liken it to gambling in some ways because of the way the accessibility on the device now. Of course, gambling has different ramifications than just time consumption. But
Right.
Can we go back to the dice game
sure,
compulsive? I would like to
yeah.
know some more, please, if I could. So your partner said, "Please don't do this anymore," and you're like, "Okay," and you
It
stop.
it was more than, "Please don't do this anymore." It was,
Mhm.
very much pressing, and threatening, not threatening, but, requesting that if I don't stop, I'm gonna have to get help, and, I've had an uncanny ability to be able to stop certain things.
Nice.
This was one of them, like, I stopped cigarettes, after, like, 30 years of smoking.
Yeah.
And it was just one day I decided I didn't want them anymore, and I stopped.
Mhm.
I stopped
Yeah.
alcohol just like that. One day I decided it was disgusting and didn't drink anymore. So,
Yeah.
but with cocaine, I couldn't do that,
Yeah.
with all the other
Yeah.
drugs, I couldn't do that. So I had to go to
Mhm.
rehab. And that time away, I was in AA and I was in NA. Those two programs up until the 12th step helped me kind of level out. And I've
Mhm.
been clean for a while. So,
Yeah. And Kitty, you have some involvement in smart recovery, right?
I
Or I'm sorry, I
do,
didn't mean to
and
interrupt. Yeah.
well, no, I appreciate you talking about it. It helps destigmatize all kinds of addiction when we can just transparently say, here's what happened to me, and
right.
here's what I tried. And we've often heard that there's just one way to do that, pure abstinence from the moment it's determined to be a problem. And if you're unable to pull that off, then you're just not trying hard enough, and blah blah blah. And
Mhm.
or you
Right.
can't do it for someone else, like if your partner does an intervention. And the way I think of it is there's no bad reason to just try to live your life by your values and what's blessing your life. And if something's getting in the way,
Mhm.
let's rally the troops and everyone do everything we can to work on it. But it's probably not going to be fixed immediately, and it's not going to be handled by just like one route for everyone. So, uh, if 12 step was what helped, that works for a lot of
Right.
people. They really dig the spiritual component to it and the group unity.
Yeah.
Yeah, worked for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that was I kind of divorced my. Everybody has a way of choosing their own higher power, and so mine was completely different than what I'm sure all everybody else. Maybe not. I don't know. I didn't get into
Yeah,
that with anybody. It wasn't my driving force. So I was just really just trying to go through the steps, and not really
yeah.
it was more of something that gave me time away from,
yeah,
uh, my substance abuse, and if I could put it away long enough, I just didn't go back. Now, I still know that if I get put in a situation, that probably would I I probably would use again, so I don't put myself in those situations,
Uh, yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
and my partner is also careful to not she's had an issue, with abuse, drug and substance abuse, alcohol abuse in her family
Mhm.
for, a long time. So, um, that it just it pained her, and that helped me,
Mm,
wanna change. So when you said that, some, change for your partner, I did.
yeah.
I did, but
Mhm,
I did it for me
mhm.
too. Like, once I started, I did it for me, because I realized that if I was gonna end up dead. I was to the yeah, I was gonna end up
yeah.
dead, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was AA and I needed a higher power. I know that Smart Recovery is a program that doesn't necessarily involve the higher power, but it's an excellent program. It works for a lot of people. But for me, I needed that because I had control issues along with it. I mean, worst kind of alcoholic, I guess, but I guess all alcoholics do have control issues. But I need that higher power to surrender to. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and sort of be lose my feelings of control. I needed that. I couldn't have done it probably without that. I know
Mhm.
Monkey. Is that we've been
Yeah,
introduced
my
to Monkey to Kitty's dog, Monkey.
the whole, like, emotional support animal?
Mhm.
I'm her emotional support animal, so she's really stressed out that I'm
Right.
engaging with any guy. So I do need to settle her down. But
Yeah.
I've just I mean, so many thoughts and just hearing y'all's experience with different programs related to addiction recovery and um, like one of the words. Are we okay just talking about if we use different words than the other people use?
Sure.
'Cause
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think of like abuse as like domestic partner violence abuse or
okay.
um
Right.
like abusing a system like or stealing or like kind of crime and in a
Mhm.
violent way.
Yeah.
Not ideal for anyone. So then when I think of addictive behaviors, I don't know that I was ever, and I've had a laundry list of addictive behaviors. I was abusing anything.
Mm.
I think I was using it in a different quantity than blessed me, but also to the amount that an addictive product was designed. And
Okay.
so I really want to just help
Huh.
have some dialogue around we just had the opioid epidemic and remember Robert Stackler would say things like hammer the abuser. They just completely tried to spin it that the people that got strung out
We're
on
just doing what the
oxycontin.
drug was designed to essentially result in.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know that I've abused gambling, but
I
I
like that framing.
experienced
Yeah. That's
gambling
interesting. Yeah.
harm
Mhm.
because it was really accessible. Onyx Road had the video game that had no
That
friction in your pocket 24/7,
right.
disproportionately impacts different demographics. And it was the perfect storm. It
Right.
probably solved a lot of problems at first of
Mhm.
loneliness, boredom, just things
Yes, the
we're going
boredom,
through.
the part wanting to party, but not like, at first,
Yeah.
it was just a release, steam
Yeah.
from like the week.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, let me just, pop a couple Addies. I get a little speedy. It replaced like the Coke that I used to do.
Mhm.
And, it, you know, so I still take Adderall, but I take it like I'm supposed to, and it doesn't
Uh-huh.
really affect me. I can fall asleep on it. The thing that I've noticed though is I can't take more of it and feel good anymore.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I can take my normal dose. If I spend a day
Oh,
partying with it, then I wouldn't feel good. It would just feel bad as opposed to when I used to feel great. Yeah.
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 Oh,
Right.
hi, puppy dog.
Okay, let's say hi to Monkey. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Um, we know who runs this house.
Yeah.
So that could be a tolerance issue, or it could be natural recovery that you filled in parts of your life that was meeting those needs of self acceptance, creating community, dealing with boredom. I don't know what the different things could be.
Mm.
Uh, so it changed your relationship with the Adderall. But what you did was harm reduction. And it's the same way that you might hear about people that hand out like needles and clean saline and injectable training and stuff. We can't help people recover if they're not housed, if they're not having any of their needs met, and especially not if they overdose and die. And
Mm.
so the form of harm reduction is like, let's first get people safe. And can we titrate down? Can we addiction
Right.
switch from cocaine to Adderall?
Mhm.
The medical journals aren't like, yeah, that's the best plan. They're going to say, let's try to have it extinguish everything all at once and then go read to orphans and, be vegan.
Right.
Like, right? Like we have these ideals,
Right.
but that doesn't work for a lot of us. We're still kind of
I
fits and starts.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
The harm reduction thing is a good thing. I don't I remember, I don't know if it's, Portugal who I remember a while back
Mhm.
started harm reduction,
Mhm.
um, and and decriminalization of all drugs,
Mhm.
and, like, after 5, 10 years, the use was completely down and not as much addiction rates, and people who wanted to use drugs could,
Mm.
and it was a safe space, to use these
Mhm.
drugs and where to get them. Same in
It's
the United
safe.
States.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
so
So,
harm
so
reduction. Yeah, I like.
accepting people at where they're at and then having mentors or peers or community that'll be like,
Mm,
I'm there for you. I will walk alongside you as we try to figure this out. And I don't expect you to be vegan and read to orphans or even stay abstinent. There's so much stigma to having
right.
relapses. So with gambling,
Is that what a peer mentor is, or that you mentioned the peer mentors within the context of
yeah, I mean,
courses?
I think of a peer mentor as someone who simply is like being there, like Maverick and Goose, like
Mm.
be my eyes,
Okay.
Goose,
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that
Got it. Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it used to be when we first started our agency, we were kind of
Mhm.
um, flying the plane while we were building it, and you need to show efficacy if you're going to get grants for 501(c)(3)s. And so
Mhm.
we would be evaluated on if our clients said that they got better housing and quit smoking and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, well, we don't really have a lot of control over the housing market in Oregon. And sometimes people's housing got worse before it got better. They might be in a relationship that wasn't really blessing their lives, but
Yeah.
supported the
Sure.
gambling happening.
Mhm.
So for me, I ended up being asked to leave what was otherwise a really pretty nice marriage. I call my husband, the person that was
Okay.
my husband,
Yeah.
said, "I've tried everything,
Mm,
and I really don't think I'm going to be able to be the person to be here for this, to stand by you when the gambling continues to happen." He truly tried everything. Like when people say he went to the end of the earth, he quit his job and took me on a trip around the world for a few years where I went to dozens of countries to try to figure out who I am and what matters to me. And it eventually worked, but unfortunately not while we were together. Um,
Mm.
so um, I don't know. There's lots of ways to be there for people, and sometimes that's even loving them by setting a boundary and saying, "I'm gonna have to love you from a distance
Yes.
while you go experience enough consequences of this to be able to motivate the change."
Right, because you can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to want to
Yeah.
quit. It has to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a
Right.
problem until it's a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
And then, so when we mentor folks, it's kind of like friendship, but they don't have to hear our stuff. We're here to
mm,
hear their stuff.
it's
And
yeah.
Right.
yeah, and
Right.
we're safe. We're not going to do anything to harm them. We're going to
Mhm.
create
Right.
some boundaries around it of when can you text me? And I don't find that my dysregulation, and Sam and I are close. There's a
Yeah,
lot of it. It
right.
doesn't
Of
happen
course.
just like on Tuesdays from 10 to 10:54 when you have your
Right.
therapy appointment. It
Right,
happens at
Right.
very different times. Lonely
Right.
Friday nights,
right. Yeah.
when you get a bill in the
Right.
mail and a flat tire at the same time.
Mm,
And that's when you need
Oof.
someone in real time. And so I just feel really fortunate to be able to hire mentors and give people the opportunity to talk with mentors. I'm finding lots of really cool new kind of modern problems require modern solutions type things with gambling
mhm.
that some of the folks I run around with have apps where it'll say,
Yeah.
how many days since you've gambled last? Is that useful in building your motivation to count your days?
Mm.
Mm, no. Yeah. I
Samantha, are
thought
you
it was.
You
counting any
know,
days?
Not anymore, but I did count them in the first 2 weeks, in the first 30
Mhm,
days, in the first 60
mhm,
days. I did
mhm,
them then. I counted those
mhm,
chips. I look forward to earning those chips towards after 6 months and then,
mhm,
moving on. But yeah, I don't now. Now I just know that I can't drink.
yeah, yeah. I didn't really do a countdown. It is kind of funny because I stopped using drugs,
Mhm.
with the exception of alcohol and Adderall, which was prescription, in 2012. Um,
mhm,
I didn't really think about it. It just wasn't I wasn't around it anymore, so it kind of
mhm,
left my mind.
mhm,
And I in 2023 no, 2025, last year no, 2 years ago, I was put so 2024, I was in a situation, where where, like, there was cocaine, and I
mhm,
knew there
mhm,
was,
mhm,
and I knew I could get it.
mhm,
Um,
Mm,
and
mhm.
it was it kinda tested me, and I was I, I didn't do it, and I didn't get it, and I was very happy about that,
mhm.
and it was at that point that I realized that it's been all these years, and I can't just throw away all these years of sobriety if
Yeah.
I can help it, and I was able to stay away from it, so, I don't wanna say I'm in the clear because that's not true,
Mhm,
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 um,
mhm,
I know that if I am in the room and there is a big pile of cocaine, I will do it. I know that if
yeah.
there's ecstasy, any kind
mhm,
of drugs, really,
mhm,
any kind of drugs, just not just cocaine. Cocaine was my drug of choice.
Mhm.
But any kind of
mhm.
drugs, there's some that I probably wouldn't do anymore. But like I don't know, I haven't
Let's stay
even
away
eaten
from
mushrooms in a
fentanyl.
long
Can
time.
we all like
Right. Yeah.
pledge like
No
the
fentanyl.
fentanyl free zone?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's a hospital drug, like, when I'm in the
yeah.
Right.
hospital, I like
Mhm.
Dilaudid, but, like, on the
Yeah.
street, I probably
With
shouldn't
a
do Dilaudid,
purpose.
no,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so see what you're saying about that you were around it. It was frictionless. And for people that have gambling disorders,
yeah,
the cash really is our cocaine. So if you had piles of cocaine on your coffee table and your end table and every horizontal surface in your life in your handbag, it's like,
oh,
there's some more cocaine there. Like that's gonna be hard to you're gonna have something
it
happen,
would be
right?
right, it would
Yeah.
be over, it would be
Yeah.
over,
So
yeah.
so that's one of the real challenges with gambling is that it's so normalized that in fact our government runs it by
Yeah.
having really robust lotteries with basically slot machines everywhere. I don't know where everyone's from, but in Oregon,
Right,
it's very, very common to have bars and delis. There's like I don't know, 12,000 slot machines in our
Oh,
sandwich shops
wow.
and stuff
Yeah.
around here. Yeah, and that's where most of our harm is happening. About
Right.
80% ish of folks are experiencing that. And they're really
And
people
people
that
seem to
don't.
always focus on the casinos,
No, it's not the
Detroit.
Right.
casinos.
It
Right.
isn't,
Those are
right? But that's where
destinations.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
That's a place where you go to a spa or a nice dinner or an anniversary, and maybe there's some gambling there or the show, but it doesn't seem like that's where you have to go to make plans to, whereas the cafe down the road is completely different.
Yeah.
Right. You
So
just
look
walk
at
on in.
well, so you have your phone that we're already wired to, let
Yeah.
alone
Right.
kids, digital
Yes.
natives.
Hmm.
It's a little dopamine dispenser around the clock.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no end
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Right.
No, you got to go home. You can't stay here. You can it decurrencyfies money. You can
Hmm.
at some point we're going to be able to poke a button and mortgage our house and go use it to
Oof.
do prediction markets online when you're high or have substances in your system that no one's monitoring that. So, and especially for kids that grew up,
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, Anxros, but when we were little, we rode bikes and had to walk to school and we're outside more.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah,
So
James.
I
we
drank
knew
from the
how to be a
hose.
little
Come on
bored.
now. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
No, I'm
the kids.
53. Well, I will be 50.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, so kids these days, I mean, they grew up with tablets for entertainment. You
Well,
gave them an
it's like
iPad.
knowing how to use the tablet too.
Yeah.
They grew up knowing how to use technology,
Mhm.
or they came out knowing how to use technology. I joke around with my nephews and nieces the same way because they're just like, and I'm like, how are you doing all this stuff? How did you learn to go on Roblox and buy this and buy
Mhm.
that so soon?
Hmm.
My
Hmm.
Mhm.
sister's daughter bought like $400 from Amazon. $400 worth
Mhm.
of stuff from Amazon.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the first time, and it hasn't been the last time. So
Yeah.
um it's
Hmm.
it's just amazing that kids are so advanced. Like they're just so used to the technology. So it makes it easier to get
Yeah.
into these type of games where you can spend money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I really do try to stay focused on the solution. So with my whole like modern problems thing, like you can have an app that tracks your days if that's helpful to you.
Hmm.
If you had, when that cocaine showed up that one time, used it, that would have been unfortunate. You would probably felt pretty mad at yourself or sad or like had a
Oh yeah.
lapse or relapse or
Yeah.
I'm so glad that didn't happen.
Right.
There's something called the abstinence violation effect where we have a recurrence of the symptom of the chronic condition, chronic being something that tends to continue, not
Right.
acute.
Right.
And we go,
Right.
I'm a jerk. I'm not even trying. Heck it. Let's just go for broke. And it hangs
Right.
around another long while, sometimes
Hmm.
to the point that it really causes us harm, or in gambling's case,
Right.
ends our life, has the highest suicide completion rate of all the addictions.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I try to make it safe for people to say, yep, I'm still gambling. Or with me, um, Samantha, should we talk about my little habit?
Sure. We can talk about your little habit that
Okay.
I may
Go
have.
ahead and talk
Yeah.
about it.
No,
How it
go.
started, what you saw, what you see yesterday, what's going on.
Well, I introduced you to it. That's it was
It's
my
not your fault.
idea. Huh?
Hmm. It's not your
Uh,
fault. I wanted
so
to.
okay, well, there you go. I used to play a video game now, Pokemon and Pokemon Go, and I
Mhm.
found it really fun during. What happened was it was COVID, and I had kids, and I wanted something that my kids could do during COVID, where we could go outside into a park or someplace like that, and not necessarily interact, but still be around people, and and play this game. And they did it for about 2 weeks, and
Mhm.
then they got burned out on it, and by that point, I was utterly hooked. I was just totally addicted to the game, and so I would continue to play the game. And you've joked about this too, is that I had money to buy extra Pokeballs and my kids didn't, and I wasn't
Mhm.
paying them to play, so it was rather easier for them to sort of fall off and easier for me to continue playing. Um, but so I played for a long time off and on, and I thought it would be fun to bring it into our relationship since we were spending time walking around and things like that and seeing the
Mhm.
city, and so I introduced Pokemon to Kitty, and she's like a champ. She's just, I mean, she took it to whole new levels. I mean, spreadsheets and just helping these, activity tutors,
We would
Pokemon
drive to
classes.
other states to have more people to go on raids with.
Yeah. It got, I mean, quite involved, and it was, it was fun to enjoy, but it got overwhelming. And you were at the park for Pride in the Park. We were doing Pride at the Park, and I was operating the booth, and you came up, and it was also Pokemon Community Day, wasn't it? It was a Community Day, and they were hosting
It's
it at
Go
the park
Fest.
too.
It's once a year.
It's Go Fest. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I remember Go Fest. That's a big deal. That's a big
Mhm.
deal. I saw a
Mhm.
lot of people wearing their
Mhm.
team jerseys or whatever, the red
Mhm.
and the walking around too. So that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But I feel bad because you found Pokemon a lot of fun. Obviously, and we enjoyed it doing it together. At least I enjoyed it doing with you up to a point.
You were able to do it
After I became a slacker.
with moderation. So I just really did get carried away to the point that, like, we sometimes will tell people, like, oh,
Mhm.
you got sober, but then you got addicted to your meetings. And it's like, well, is it really addiction if there's not a lot of negative consequences to it? I mean, that's
Yeah.
the hallmark of the problem. So for me, it would be things like, I can remember having a meeting with um, I'm a consultant in stuff for the certification board, and I was so excited to get this new gig. And I would have a training meeting with my new boss or client person, and he would call and he'd be like, "You didn't answer. I thought we had an 11 o'clock," and I was out playing Pokemon instead of working. I just wanted to get just a couple more minutes in, or I would stay up late, or I had my credit card linked to the account that I could just push a button and get, like Samantha said, like more the juice to keep it running.
Right.
And I started filming myself just to kind of capture what it was like to go to the throes of a step down addiction from having gambling harm, because it's definitely got elements of gambling to it. There's a prize, there's chance, there's luck to
You're
it.
chasing it. Yeah.
You feel that there is a
Tolerance.
skill to it by
Right.
the way you flip your Pokeball, or how you
Right.
spin it to do the curveballs and stuff. Yeah.
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 So I guess what I take from it is that I am able to have a more balanced relationship with it now. But yesterday was noticeable that I was with a friend that's a Pokemon player who does it when she walks her dog for a half hour a day. And so she was playing with me. So that to me said, this is a good Pokemon day. I have a good relationship with it. And then pretty soon we would run into people we knew, and she would be talking to them, and I was still playing Pokemon because I didn't want to close my phone. And that has a negative consequence because we need connection. We need to be able to be present in our relationships. That's one of the biggest rewards of any kind of being able to get those compulsive behaviors put away. So I continue to chisel away at my own challenges, and I want to be transparent about it. I think we should talk about these things.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh,
And it's only going to become, I think, I mean, I would be speculating, and I'm not quite the futurist that you are, but it seems that with the political pressures that we see currently today, that certain people on the spectrum of what I don't know how to say spectrum, but being the pressure of the current administration on so many different people may result in people turning to either alcohol or drugs or possibly gambling. And now that gambling is such, or can be through one's phone or through sports betting. I mean, prediction markets when I write a note and hit post here on Substack, there's a prediction market attached to that note. You can click on that box and see a prediction market that lists different political possibilities and can take you right into it. And so the ease of access is even here on Substack in each of the posts. That's what prompted me to want to talk with you about that. Or this about that with the prediction markets. But and so I fear that it can be predatory and prey on certain individuals.
Yeah, I
Like which
didn't know this.
individuals?
I'm sorry. I said, what?
Which individual? I just want to say I didn't know about the prediction markets on Substack, so this is pretty interesting to me. I'm going to have to take a little look see and see.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
Oh my
It's on
gosh.
it's on my phone. Yeah, yeah.
They
I'm
were
sorry.
they were on the Golden Globes Award,
Mhm.
was that several months ago, that you could take out a position of who would receive the next award, and we were able to predict it with almost perfect accuracy. That,
oh, good.
so, I mean, to give you, if you're interested, can I give you like a little crash course? And
Yeah, I'd love
Yeah,
that. Please do.
I
definitely.
guess along with our fentanyl pledge, if I could just ask viewers to please join me
Yeah.
in saying that
Chris
if I say
Resists mentioned it right there in the
do not
mhm,
go load a prediction market app on your phone as a result of this conversation. Okay,
mhm.
everybody?
No,
Like,
Yeah, no, don't. Yeah,
let's
no,
first do
yeah.
no
never.
harm. And if you want
Yeah.
to research it and ask people about it, there's a couple different ones that are legal all over the United States now, and there's other ones that are legal all over the world. And so some of the things you probably heard in the news are where they say the phrase insider trading.
Mm,
And
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember when Martha White
mm.
went to prison for a $50,000 knowledge of something that could happen with her stock
Martha
portfolio.
Stewart? Martha
Yeah.
Martha
Stewart?
Stewart? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
mhm,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
Martha Stewart. Yeah.
yeah,
Who did I say?
definitely.
Martha, it
Martha
does. Yeah,
White.
Martha White. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Martha Stewart, and
Mm.
because the Securities and Exchange Commission, they don't come to play. Like, they do not mess around,
Right.
and they are bona fide. The folks that oversee, I'm using my sarcastic scare quotes, is the the CFTC, the Commodities and Future Trading Commission,
Uh,
and it's kind of a misnomer to call it a commission because it's one person. It's
Oh,
Michael Selig is the chair, and no one's been seated on the commission. Guess
mm.
why?
Yeah,
Because
right.
yeah.
individuals don't want to have guardrails. And so it's truly the Wild West of a race to market for all of the different operators to get market share. And that,
Yeah.
yeah, Martha Stewart. And that includes DraftKings, and the
Right.
sports are just going to have another tab there.
Yeah.
Um, there's international ones. You know what? I'm not going to list them,
No,
but
no,
you
it
can,
reminds me of the early days of Bitcoin when,
yeah.
those early coins, whether it be Doge or,
Mhm.
Litecoin or Ethereum, Reddit.
Mhm.
Ethereum,
Yeah, when those coins were all rushing to not quite ready marketplaces for those kinds of things to be added to
Yeah.
401ks or institutional investing to eventually, sort of be Bitcoin where it skyrockets to $80,000. But
But
uh,
that's a perfect mention because we've just had a release of a report that shows that the Trump family has made a couple $1 billion
couple
in
billion, yeah.
mhm,
crypto,
Oh,
yeah,
billion in
yeah.
crypto,
yeah, billion.
And that was the
by
Wild West.
design.
That was the
Yeah.
wild. I remember when I first got interested in it in terms of its practicality as a cool concept and mining through my laptop's graphics card. Um, I remember it was like the Wild West where you could just pump and dump a coin. You could say,
Mhm.
"This is going to change the world. Here's a white paper that nobody could really understand," and have people sing its praises and pump
Mhm.
that coin's value up, and then never
Mhm.
produce and just sell everything. And 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 it got to be scams, and there were people who would run them all the time on these exchanges in
Yeah.
the early days. And
Yeah.
that reminds me of where we're kind of at writ large on a larger landscape with prediction markets, and because of the money and the backing that's behind them.
Yeah. Well,
There's
so
right now sorry about
mhm.
that.
No, go ahead.
The World Cup, is going
Mhm.
on, and as we know,
Mhm.
there's a thing called Kalshi. I don't know, Kalshi,
Yeah,
and it
mhm,
is the same type of thing. You bet on the games, you
yeah,
predict who's gonna win, and
Mhm.
it's just so easy. Like, if they like, online, it's just like every other ad.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
yeah.
And, if I were a betting person, I would do it.
Oh, yeah.
But no.
So,
Right.
yeah, so I
And it makes you
that
think like you know what you're doing. You could predict, yeah, I
Right,
know this is going to happen because I know about
right,
this area,
yeah,
and it's still risk.
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But
So
it's like
so
that little dopamine hit. Yeah.
yeah, but we said it's gonna affect some people, and that's important to talk about of, like, what
Okay.
people,
Yeah.
because it disproportionately impacts specific demographics, and
Mhm.
that hope of people that are living in poverty. Boy, that's hard. I don't know if y'all have
Right.
experienced poverty, but
Mhm.
it's a whole different motivation to be able to feed your children or pay your rent.
Yeah.
It disproportionately affects very young people that don't have fully formed prefrontal cortexes until age 25, or older adults that
Mm.
have
Mhm.
time on their hands and loneliness and physical pain.
I knew a
The
Keno player that way. They were
Mhm,
just an older gentleman who played Keno
mhm,
and
mhm.
could
Right.
tell stories
Right.
all day long. Yeah.
Right.
Ethnicities, in terms of Oregon, our Latinx or Latino population
Mhm.
is really getting decimated. And it's difficult to do prevalence studies that are accurate because there's just not a ton of transparency, and it's very cost prohibitive
Mhm.
to get
Mhm.
a sampling of not just who's experiencing gambling harm or pretty soon prediction market harm, but
Mhm.
also break that down into subsets by
Yeah.
ethnicity, genders, blah, blah, blah. And so there's a lot of this like, we don't know. And, here's services for everyone. Well,
Mhm.
you want to be able to get services to help you from people that sound like you and look like you. And we need to be able to fully offer that. So being part of the solution, I really do encourage people first that an ounce of prevention is
Mhm.
pound a cure. Do not put, I was trying to avoid saying the name of the main
Sorry.
prediction market. No, 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 it's all good. But do not put that on your phone because it's not just
Right.
about sports. I wouldn't have the first clue how to do a six-leg parlay with the over-unders or something. I don't
No.
know.
Yeah.
I
Horses
wouldn't have
just
a clue.
watching them run around, but yeah, you
Yeah.
could put combinations and all these things. It makes it more
But
complex.
am I interested in, like, fashion at the Met Gala? Heck yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I wanna take positions on what everyone's wearing, or
Mhm.
so they try to put things in there that are not just gonna draw in what people's interests are, but also play on our fears.
Yeah.
I
It's not just
actually
gonna be sports. Yeah. Right.
Oh, no, and I was so fortunate to get asked to give a TEDx talk in January, and I wanted to sorry, had to mention that,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Go girl.
but,
Okay.
you get one shot, and, like, I wanted to get in front of this prediction market stuff, so I
Yeah.
tried to focus on that a little, and so I thought, "Well, I better at least try it and see what it's like," and you could pick who you thought
Oh.
the next people to be dismissed from the current administration's
Mhm.
cabinet would
Yeah.
be,
Right.
and so
Mhm.
Oh,
it's like
wow.
channeling that fear or that addiction to, bad news.
Mhm.
I don't know if y'all do this, that you're constantly, like, looking at Aaron Parnas saying there's breaking news and what's up
Yeah.
today? Because
Yeah, God
if
bless
I
him,
go
but
more
yeah.
than half
Right.
a day,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so I picked 3 people
Mhm.
that I thought would be dismissed, and 2 of them have been so far, and, um I have someone I can tell that is a colleague at work, and he's like, "So how many positions did you?" It's nice to be able to be transparent about it. It's
Yeah.
also
Okay.
nice that I don't get fired from my job for gambling.
Mhm.
But I tell you, I'm
Yeah.
interested in it, and I can imagine lots of people are going to be because it's just so appealing to all of our neurotransmitters. Like, you
Yeah.
have your oxytocin of being part of something. I don't know if y'all remember that GameStop thing that happened in 2021
Yeah.
where we tried
Yes.
to
Stock market.
That was
short
Mhm.
squeeze,
fun.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
So much fun.
Were you
Yeah.
part of that?
I I watched it. I just
Yeah.
watched it. I was on Reddit at that point, so I was
Yeah.
just and I was in GameStop, I think it was our GameStop or
Yeah.
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was exciting,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
I saw people, like, lose their shirts and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it sure felt
so
good to be a part of something, didn't it? Like
right.
hold, everybody hold. As long as
Mhm.
we stick together, we can really stick it to Wall Street. And it turned out
Right,
Wall Street had Robinhood shut off trading, and
right.
the common folk got short shrift. So
Yeah.
rats, who thought that could happen? Um,
One
I
of the
don't
one
know.
of the
So
things that I like about
Mhm.
prediction markets, or I find fascinating about prediction markets, is it's not just sports, it's not just fashion, it's not just entertainment. It can be
Mhm.
anything that's happening in pop culture. Social
Yeah.
media
Mm,
itself could be setting these sort of
Yeah.
trends that could then be bet on through prediction markets to, as things go along. I know trends might not be the right word, but maybe someone in the news cycle or someone, and it could just be as for almost any interest that you might have, the
Yeah.
prediction markets could develop. It's not unique to just certain areas that would
So
not be
here's the thing,
typically
they're
involved
not
in
framed as actually being gambling. They won't
gambling.
admit they're gambling.
Mhm,
They're saying that they're a consumer forecasting tool. So in fact,
mhm.
there's no
See?
insider
Yeah.
trading. What it is a way for people to have better information. And so you will hear Michael Selig, the whole CFTC, say things like, this is going to be really handy. Like, let's say you need to get into a drug study and you're wondering if the Food and Drug Administration, do we still have a Food and Drug Administration? I haven't looked today.
I think he's giving everyone violent diarrhea, isn't he?
Diarrhea. We just diarrhea. Like,
I think that's its
I
sole
don't,
purpose right now is to give everyone measles and violent diarrhea.
how did we get, it hasn't even been mentioned. It kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of other epidemics of how many people suffered before we've even noticed them. But, wow, that was a weird tangent. Okay, back from diarrhea. So don't say things like you need to get into a drug trial and you don't know if it's going to be approved by the FDA. So what you want to do is take out a position of whether the FDA will approve it or not. And then if it doesn't, you'll make money and you can afford to go pay market price for the drug rather than being in the trial. So it evens out. Or you're going to buy a house and you don't know if the market's going to be in a bubble or be upside down. So what you want to do is take a position on what's going to happen in the housing market. And then if you do lose money on the price of your home when you get in, you're going to make money when you close your position. Okay. And so that'll offset it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's
What could go wrong? So there's just a lot to it. So first, just don't do it, y'all. Go do
right.
Yeah.
yoga or ride bikes, but please wear a
Hiking,
helmet.
right? Play with
Yeah,
your dog. Yeah.
yes, the dogs need rescued, and they sure take up your time and give you the other neurotransmitters with the
Mhm.
serotonin
Community.
to clean
Yeah.
up after them and all of the, hugs and cuddles and stuff. Uh, but we also need to be able to talk more transparently about it and offer solutions. And if people have tried, and that's with gambling or substance use, drugs, lots of things. There's a lot of sex addiction out there. I don't know if you've run across like sex related chemical things. Are y'all familiar with that as kind of a
Mhm.
new side community, but very addictive when you're combining substances with sexual neurotransmitters, with community, with love. If that gets rolled in there of the
Yeah.
holy grail of being human, that people choose us to be close in our space or something, like
Yeah.
that's
That's
going
right.
to be a really hard one. And so folks are realizing there's negative consequences. You don't necessarily just have one option of how to deal with that. And so Samantha mentioned Smart Recovery. They're online. I don't work for them, not sponsored, but smartrecovery.org. And it's based on cognitive behavioral therapy. And so it looks at being triggered. It looks at what motivates you. For me, that's being around other people I care about. So in 12 step, that's really pro-social shaming of, yeah, we're going to tell you there's no shame in having a recurrence, but you also need to write down your new sobriety date and kind of confess what
Yeah.
happened and start over. And
Right. Get your new 30-day chip. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a good book called Dopamine Nation that covers a lot of that. So I don't know. I just find it helpful. They have tools of things like doing a cost benefit analysis of any decision you make. Like, is this going to help in the long term or the short term, kind of thing. I can't see the comments very well, and I don't want to tell you how to run your podcast, but I think people were asking about having predispositions or addictive personalities or something. Is
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
one of the questions? Um,
Let me pop up in there.
if it
Yeah,
was, I'll
maybe
just kind of
addictive
start going down that
personalities.
path.
Sure. Go
Mhm.
ahead. Go ahead, Kitty.
I mean, there's definitely going to be folks that are going to have more of a tendency to have what I think of as kind of like the whack-a-mole condition, where one addiction goes away and another pops up. So if you've ever quit smoking cigarettes and suddenly gain a little bit of weight because you're just wanting to kind of
Right.
put things in the cookie hole more,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
going
the
to
new-
happen. Yeah. Um, And so that's kind of to be expected, but when we break it down into who's gonna be disproportionately affected, people with trauma, or you might have heard of ACE scores, that
Mhm.
have to do with, like, in your childhood. There's a lot to whether ACE scores are really valid and reliable, but
Mhm.
were you loved perfectly? Did you have all your needs met as a kid?
I think it's unusual to have. Yeah.
We
Right.
didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and some of us
I
more
would
so
think that's
than others not.
A lot
So
of us
those
spent
right.
are
time outside until mom called us to come home late at night. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
being bullied.
definitely.
Yeah. Or being
That's
And or
bullied.
tough.
Yes. Uh-huh.
mhm.
Tough.
Yeah.
So it really
Tough.
affects us, and those are the folks that we need to protect and need to make sure that they know that there's other resources out there that can help if there's a compulsive behavior happening. And so Smart Recovery also has a friends and family program, and I don't know if you've ever seen shows like, that addiction one, Intervention, where they're like, "Here's
Oh, yeah.
all the ways we hate you."
Mhm.
I don't
Yes.
Do you find that helpful to have someone, your
Y
whole family be like, "We hate you.
No.
Hmm.
No,
Get better,
not at
do
all.
better."
No.
Yeah, not at all.
No.
I don't even understand how they think that would be a great way to help someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, so they encourage more of kind of finding each other doing something right, or looking at the motivation behind the behavior. When people are suffering, they
Mhm.
can be kind of high maintenance. They need a lot because 'cause they're hurting,
Yeah. And we
and
don't shoot
that
our
just
wounded.
right.
yeah, we don't shoot
Right,
our
there we
wounded.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
Well,
So,
and you taught me
I guess
that, Kitty, so
I would be remiss in my responsibilities just to let people know that there's numbers like 1-800-MY-RESET is the national number that
Mhm.
will figure out where you're from and connect you with services in your state. If
Great.
there are some, a lot of them are free. They're free in Oregon. Um, that number is 877 My Limit. And we have an inpatient treatment center here. I was there for 75 days, and it saved
Mhm.
me just to have some space from it, like to
Mhm.
have
right.
friction between me and the gambling.
Very nice.
And
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's outpatient services and peers and all kinds of things.
Okay. Well, great. I appreciate that, Kitty.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's very sweet.
My pleasure.
Is there a way for people to follow you on social media, or if they want to see one of your talks or anything like that? Or, um,
Um, yeah, I mean, Voices of Problem Gambling Recovery has its own handle
mhm.
on the platforms, and
Okay.
I would encourage folks, if you're interested in knowing more, if you search my name, Kitty Martz, you'll run into other podcasts like this
Mhm.
that that then you'll see that there's one specifically for I don't know. The Broke Girls Society is
Yes. Yes.
primarily for
Mhm.
female identifying individuals, so we're not specific to that. It's just talks about lots of things like how perimenopause can affect our gambling and empty nest syndrome and stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, feel free to search those out. And thank you for having me. It was a delight to talk to you both.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
It's
Thank you for
wonderful
being here.
talking to you.
Yeah. I know Onyx Rose, you have your own closing, and I love the way you do your closing. So you're ready for this, Kitty. So
Okay.
if you would if you would the honor of giving us our closing, and then if for those,
Wonderful.
at the end, please stick around at the end. I'm going to talk about autumn for those who are interested. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we say no trash.
Mhm.
That is no transphobia, no racism, no ableism, no sexism, no homophobia. And then we add in no xenophobia, no Islamophobia, land back, reparations, no borders, fuck Trump, fuck ICE,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
fuck cancer.
Fuck cancer. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
I appreciate
Have a
that.
good night, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us again. This has been
Bye.
our
Okay.
this has been our discussion with Kitty Martz, executive director of Voices in Problem
Gambling
Gambling
recovery.
Recovery,
Mhm.
out of Portland, Oregon, a charitable organization that assists in those with gambling
Mhm.
harms.
Mhm.
Does that work?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
There we
And fellow Pokemon
go.
aficionado and good
Mhm.
friend of mine. So, but anyway, thank you for joining us, Kitty. It's been a pleasure. And Autumn,
Sending love
uh,
to Autumn especially. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, Onyx Rose.
Bye, Autumn. Love you, girl. Okay.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye. We're getting there. Okay. Uh, Thank you, everyone, for joining. To give sort of I guess, an update. This show is usually myself and Autumn, and Autumn Rose, and oh, I met Autumn about a year ago. First met Autumn, and I remember when I first met her, maybe a little over a year ago. I found her sort of abrasive and uncouth and loud, and probably the most uh, confident and woman I had met, and able to get shit done when she needed to, and it blew me away. And I didn't really have reason to associate with Autumn very much. We were just sort of in the same community. Uh, but when I got a radio show at the same radio station, Autumn was covering ICE protests down at the ICE facility and doing lives via the radio from those ICE protests. And I asked her if she'd be kind enough to take me with her one day. And um, I drove totally inappropriately for the whole thing. It was actually miserable, but she was generous in her taking me down there, and generous in pointing me, introducing me to people who were down there also covering stories and who were also doing some of the protesting on both sides, or at least pointing out people, and kind of looking out for me while I froze to death out there in the weather that I was inappropriately dressed for. But from that, we started sort of hanging around more together, and as a result of that, I spent an enormous amount of time in a car driving with Autumn, just talking while we drove places and did things, and those times spent together, I grew to not only respect her, understand her, but love her, and to be just a sort of a wonderful person who I could involve in my project here on Substack. And I mean that she has the ability to get shit done. And I do not mean that as a joke. There are people who you say, run through that wall, and they will ask why. And if Autumn loves you, she will not ask why. She will just start running. And to put it another way, there are people who just understand what the concept of being in a foxhole means. And there are people who you will want to be in a foxhole with. And Autumn is someone who knows what a foxhole is, and is someone I want to be in a foxhole with. And I'm proud to have been and be in a foxhole with her. So about 2 weeks ago, we did a book fair for the radio station, which was a media fest. And Autumn was running around helping people, pointing people out to where they could go for their conference or for their authors talk. And she looked like, I don't know, just glowing from her involvement and from her helping. And it was impressive. And it was just nice to see Autumn functioning like that. And over the couple of days after that, she began to complain of back pain. And she had sort of had complaints. She had been losing a lot of weight. We were making jokes about how she's, we're dieting, and we were making jokes about, what a wonderful diet it is. So, and not seeing it so much for what it was. I guess, there were some concerns at some point that it might be anorexia, but no one considered cancer. And that was primarily because she just wasn't eating as much. Her stomach was bothering her, and so she had difficulty getting out of bed because of the back pain. And I assumed it was because of how she'd been running around, and now she was paying for it. She's not young. Autumn is 20 years younger than me. That essentially makes that she could be my child. Obviously she's not. I don't see her as that way. I see her as my ride or die rather than that. But there is a gap between us. But I thought maybe she'd been running around, just pushed herself a little too much. Autumn and I smoked. I started smoking when Trump was reelected, and it got to the point where I was smoking rather heavily, and as a result of this, just the stress of the environment and things like that. Anyway, but I could have chosen a different option to that could have working out. That would have probably been a good one. Hiking, but no, I chose smoking as a way to relieve my stress. And so, but anyway, I digress. So Autumn couldn't really get out of bed, so we had her call an ambulance. I, didn't know what this was at this point, and um, and so when she got to the hospital, they started tests and testing, and they determined that she had a mass in her lung, and they weren't sure how far along it was. And they admitted her, and they had planned on doing a biopsy, and the back pain progressed and started getting, worse and worse. So they sort of switched priorities towards the palliative care, taking care of her back pain, to begin the cancer treatment for her lung. And that's when they did a scan and discovered that it wasn't just in her lung. It had metastasized and to spread to a number of different areas of her body, bones and lymph nodes, etc. And we were told that it wasn't terminal, but it was stage 4, and that it wasn't going to get better. There is no way to cure this. It's just stage 4. And then there were some complications that occurred. In order to do the back care, they had to have her lay flat in order to do the scan. And because of the pain she was experiencing from the mass at the T10 level of her spine, compressing on the vertebrae, 40% of the vertebrae had collapsed and it was starting to impinge on nerve roots. But in order to treat that with a targeted form of cancer treatment, they were going to do sort of a radiofrequency ablation, which sort of kill the nerve roots within the vertebrae so that it won't feel pain. And that could alleviate her symptoms because the targeted cancer treatment won't be instantly curative. It takes some time for it to kill those cells. And so this was going to allow them then to focus on her lung cancer, the primary issue, before, of course, finding all these other areas. But her lungs were filling with what they were worried about was blood. And they thought that the cancer might be weeping blood into her lung cavity. And that if that were the case, it would continue to do that. And so there would be no really way to alleviate that, the lungs filling up and sort of essentially drowning herself. And so they couldn't do this procedure to scan for her back and to do the back pain without possibly intubating her. And we were told that if she did nothing, she had 24 hours to live, approximately 24 hours to live. And if she did something and they intubated her in order to have her go into this, that she may never wake up. There was a better than 50% chance, that she would never come out awake again. She would be on a tube in a breathing machine, etc. And so we had to make emergency planning. We were rushing around trying to figure out how she wanted this to work. And in the meantime, they were going to drain her lungs and hope that it wouldn't be, blood. If it was something other than blood, at least that, would be better. And so that night, I stayed with her in the hospital because, 24 hours to live, but you can't, if you do nothing, but we can't do anything right away. Hospitals are weird. So I spent the night with her. Well, she sort of assessed, Oregon has dignity with death laws. And so you can choose one death with dignity here. And so there were some thoughts and the weighing of a lot of questions and plans. And I posted, I was trying to keep her family. I mean, Autumn and I have no biological family, I guess you want to say. We have our found family. And her found family is enormous and loved her very much. And I think she wanted to try and involve her biological family. And they have not I sort of snapped and made a post about, her father, because in an extension, my own father too. That's what I was implying, because, my father disowned me too. Um, so, but thankfully, the fluid that was drained from her blood is not, or drained from her lung, was not blood. It was not blood. I don't know what it was, but they had worries. That was just like a complete roller coaster. It was like way down to the way up, and Autumn was like, bouncing off the walls. We all were. It was really exciting news, and she was feeling more comfortable. She could breathe better because of the fluid being removed. But then they started just pumping out enormous amounts of fluid, and so the concern became the mood became concerning again. And but now apparently the fluid is slowly stopping, and she's working towards Autumn. Autumn, I said it early in this that you were the kind of woman that if you said go through this wall, you wouldn't ask why, you would just go through this wall. And so Autumn, you got to go through this wall, babe. You got to get through this wall. And so, but that's sort of the past 2 weeks of my life, and so I want to thank Onyx Rose for being a guest host on these past couple of shows. It's very, I appreciate that. It's taken a lot off my my our plate, and so we thank you. And I also want to thank Kitty, who is a friend of mine, for coming on and for talking with us, to allow Autumn, who I love dearly, and who is my best friend, my ride or die, um, you know, some time to heal and some time to sort of come accustomed, or we're in the middle, as the Jimmy Eats World song goes. We're in the middle, babe. We're in the middle, um, and it's going to be all right. So. Thank you all, and I'm sorry I took so much time. This is why I usually have guest hosts, because I'm not very good at monologuing, and I'm so sorry. But I love you, Autumn. I love you, Honest Rose. I love you, Kitty. I love all of you, and thank you for tuning in. I'll keep you posted. Autumn will be back, and it wouldn't be another dry run without her. So as she says here in the comments, it's not over yet. I know it. So thank you, and we'll see you next week. I do believe that Onyx Rose said that she wanted to do Boy Meets Girl as the movie. We didn't get to talk about the movie this week, but I know that Onyx Rose had a movie in mind that she wanted to have for next week's review. If I remember, it's called Boy Meets Girl, and it's 2012, 2014, takes place, I guess, in Tennessee. But we'll link to the name of the movie. Yes, it is. Okay, good, it is. Boy Meets Girl. So we'll talk about Boy Meets Girl, and I understand it's Onyx Rose's favorite, or one of her favorite movies. She watches a lot. It's a really good movie. So it'll be fun to talk about that. And thank you so much. Thank you. And I wanted to say thank you all. I love you, and you're valid, and you're loved, and to allies, and to parents of trans kids, thank you very, very much. Thank you. And to my father, you missed out. Okay. Love you all.